Lighting the fuse in another big booming hour of the Steve Gruber Show. Glad to have you along for the conversation. Remember, this show can have a triggering effect, triggering you to have a lot of patriotism and faith in this country. Three big things to know this hour. Number one, Attorney General Pam Bondi announced the largest seizure of fentanyl in American history. 12 kilos, including 3 million pills. You see, a secure border matters. Number two, a report on the 2017 attempted murder of several members of Congress finally revealed what we knew day one. It was a crazed leftist committing a terrorist act on American soil. Bottom line, the FBI lied. And number three, war. War. That's what it looks like. India retaliates against its neighbor Pakistan following an attack that killed more than 24 civilians there. Both countries, as you probably know, have nuclear weapons. They've battled each other since the end of World War II over various contested territories, including Kashmir. There were skirmishes reported there yesterday, too. But Tuesday's escalation brings into full relief the danger we're facing with nuclear-armed neighbors killing each other. And with both on a hair trigger, the world is watching. On those escalated hostilities between India and Pakistan, President Trump said this.
No, it's a shame. We just heard about it just as we were walking in the doors of the Oval. Just heard about it. I guess people knew something was going to happen based on a little bit of the past. They've been fighting for a long time. You know, they've been fighting for many, many decades and centuries, actually, if you really think about it. No, I just hope it ends very quickly.
Yes, this is just one of the many flashpoints currently in play around the world. The attacks by India and the return fire from Pakistan come as another nation, Iran, continues to pursue nuclear weapons. That's something that we have been discussing here. And even though nobody wants the United States involved in any other wars, there are some things that cannot be allowed to happen. That's one of them. Cannot. On Iran, President Trump says they will never be allowed to have a nuclear weapon. Not now, not ever. Here he is.
This is really crunch time. I would tell you, for Iran and for their country, this is a very important time for Iran. This is the most important time in the history of Iran for Iran, and I hope they do what's right. I'd love to see a peace deal, a strong peace deal. They cannot have a nuclear weapon, but I would say that this is the single most important period in the history of Iran, which is a long history, and we want it to be a great country. Let it be a tremendously successful, rich country. They have everything you need. The people are incredible. They have vast amounts of oil and assets. We want it to be a successful country. We don't want to do anything that's going to get in the way of that, but they can't have a nuclear weapon. And if they choose to go a different route, it's going to be a very sad thing. And it's something we don't want to have to do, but we have no choice. They're not going to have a nuclear weapon. They're not going to have a nuclear weapon. Do you understand that? Okay.
They're not going to have one, period. And all of these events follow the attack on Ben Gurion Airport, Israel. That happened over the weekend, attacked by Houthi terrorists that are still able to do damage even after being pounded by the U.S. military over the past few weeks. On the Houthis, the terrorist group funded by Iran, Trump added this.
We just informed them a little while ago, and all action is stopping. Some people probably haven't heard yet. You know, there are various people in various rather strategic locations. But by this moment, they should just about all know, Marco, I think, that the attacks are going to stop both ways. And that's pretty much it. But we've just informed everybody just a little while ago.
So if you're wondering what that's about, that comment comes after President Trump said the United States would suspend military operations against the Houthis in Yemen. That comes after the Houthis reportedly told the United States they don't want to fight anymore. I wouldn't either. My concern, of course, is that they're merely taking a break to retool and rearm. We've been down roads like this before, and there's no room for error. Otherwise, Americans and our allies end up getting killed. That we cannot allow either. But while sitting with the new Prime Minister of Canada, Mark Carney, in the Oval Office, Trump said we will honor the agreement to stop the bombings, at least for now. And I say for now because the Houthis reportedly said they will no longer attack American ships. But if that changes, But if that changes, you can rest assured the ceasefire would end immediately. Now, speaking of Mark Carney, he did make his first visit to the White House as the new leader of Canada, and it was a very different tone than he's been using out on the campaign trail and in Canada, and certainly nothing like his demeanor during the very brief campaign that led him to his new position. Yeah, at the Oval Office, all that tough talk from Mark Carney disappeared. Compare and contrast. Here it is.
I don't think we can change Donald Trump. I don't think so. Not at this stage.
Get you to lift tariffs on Canada?
No,
Why not?
just the way it is.
And a person who draws his inspiration from President Trump, like Pierre Poilievre, will kneel down before him.
You're a transformational president, focus on the economy with a relentless focus on the American worker, securing your borders, ending the scourge of fentanyl and other opioids, and securing the world.
Before he stands up to him. He's in sync with President Trump.
I thought you were excellent, and I think we have a lot of things in common.
Pierre Poilievre is also choosing to be willfully blind to the many and growing threats that face our country.
We don't really want cars from Canada, and we put tariffs on cars from Canada, and at a certain point, it won't make economic sense for Canada to build those cars, and we don't want steel from Canada.
And that list went on, that conversation went on, but you can see it right there. All that tough talk from Carney, gone. Sitting with Donald Trump. However, Carney has some very serious issues to deal with at home. And President Trump was clear the tariffs he has placed on Canada will not be coming down anytime soon. And that's, as he put it, that's the way it is. Exactly what he said when asked about the tariffs he put up. That's the way it is. You heard him say it. But the bigger problem for Carney is the rising anger in his western provinces, most notably the resource-rich Alberta. And now Danielle Smith, the premier there, has called for a vote next year on independence for the wealthy oil-rich province. I might remind you that I suggested President Trump calling Canada the 51st state might well have been the strategy to get the Liberals to stay in power, but cause the nation to splinter. That's what's happened. Those in Alberta and Manitoba, Saskatchewan, even British Columbia, not thrilled with Ottawa. And well, in 226, that can now happen. Alberta could split. The vote is coming. Carney seemed ill-equipped later in the day to deal with such questions. Listen to this.
I heard you say, there's a difference between the president's comments around Canada becoming a 51st state as a wish versus a reality. You told him that Canada was not for sale. But many Canadians are offended and deeply angered by the fact that he keeps repeating this comment. So have you asked the president to stop calling Canada the 51st state?
Yes. Today.
Okay, specifically, what did you ask him?
Exactly what you just said.
But what words did you use? How did you ask him?
Look, I gave you an answer. Do you have a follow-up?
I'll say. What was his answer?
Well, we'll look. I don't know. He's the president. He's his own person. I would go back to showing the difference between a wish and a reality. We're very clear.
Yeah. Good luck on that. We've got a lot more to talk about. Mark Carney loses the tough talk and kisses the ring. I'll be right back. Very busy day on Capitol Hill. You've got, of course, India going on. Modi, by the way, President Modi, will not be going to the Netherlands and several other spots, Croatia, Norway. He was going on a European trip. He's staying home now because of the military escalation with Pakistan. Carney comes to the Oval Office, and while all of that is going on, President Trump scored another major win in the Supreme Court, with the High Court siding with the president and his ban on transgender service members. Yes, it means that transgender individuals will remain banned on base and banned from the military. And for most people, that's just common sense. The ruling means that President Trump's executive order from January the 27th stays in place. It's another notice to the federal district court judges that even though they think they have the power to issue nationwide injunctions, they don't. Frankly, they never did. As we have discussed, this was going to get settled one way or another. Congress could reel it in, or SCOTUS could get it done. Right now, the Supremes are knocking these crazy injunctions down one at a time. But by the way, to restore just a little bit of hope for you, Amy Coney Barrett sided with the president and against transgender soldiers. So maybe there is still hope for her. We'll see. We'll see. All over official Washington, the discussions over the president's mass deportation policies are being discussed, and the biggest argument for many is over so-called due process, speaking of the courts. And I posit this. Due process is to protect American citizens from a zealous government and overreach, not to keep people in the country illegally protected from deportation. And even the liberal networks seem to be getting it now, at least to a point. Here is a discussion from yesterday on MSNBC, believe it or not. I think you will be a bit surprised. Listen.
Under the statute, it is permissible to remove aliens who arrive at the border, and even those who have been here for 2 years, although that 2-year provision you talked about is the lesser used in practice. But just because it isn't used very often doesn't mean it's not a part of federal law that can be used. And it will be used because it's permitted under federal law. The Congress, in its infinite wisdom, decided that aliens who arrive at the border, and they define people who arrive at the border as people who have even been here 2 years, if they have fraudulent documents, if they don't have sufficient documents, they can be removed in an expedited fashion unless they seek asylum. So you don't run into those due process concerns, at least presumably because that statute, as it exists today, is still valid. Now, that's not what's at stake with the Venezuelans and the Alien Enemies Act. But the government's argument is that, hey, court, listen, you're telling us we need to provide notice. Well, take a look at this federal law. It says that we don't even need to have a hearing. It can happen within 24 hours. So if that's good enough for people who arrive here who are aliens, it's certainly okay for people that the president has deemed to be alien enemies.
I mean, what an argument. Presented by attorney Danny Savalas. Explained on MSNBC. You can be out in 24 hours. Don't need a hearing. Under that statute, boom, if it's good enough here, it'll be good enough over here. The answer went on to Abreu Garcia, the poster child for Democrats' love of illegal aliens. You know, the guy sent off to El Salvador that Senator Chris Van Hollen went and had margaritas with, that guy. That's where the argument went next on MSNBC. Here's what they said.
Saying, hey, bring him back, give him due process. But that due process may mean he can go to any of the other, 200 or so countries? Other than El Salvador. And that's why I'm cautioning folks. This whole idea of due process, everyone's saying it, well, this is what they're entitled to, the Supreme Court said. But as a criminal defense attorney, I can tell you that due process sometimes feels a little hollow. Going to your point about habeas, I file habeas petitions all the time. It's a slightly different statute because I'm usually dealing with criminal defendants. These are detainees. But the vast majority of habeas petitions are denied without even an evidentiary hearing. In fact, rare is the case where you get an evidentiary hearing. For criminal defense attorneys, any of you watching now, you're thinking, oh my gosh, I got a hearing on my habeas petition, because most of the time they get tossed. And it makes sense because anyone who knows prisoners or the way they litigate, they file a lot of habeas petitions. And your point is spot on. If there was a hearing for every habeas petition, the courts would shut down.
The courts would shut down. You can't do them all. Really? That's right. As he's played out there and laid out there, you don't need a hearing for each and every one of these folks. They're here illegally. They don't have the same due process protections that I, as an American citizen, or you as an American citizen, have. It's that simple. Your first act to be in America was to break the law to be here. The due process will have you shown the door. Oh, and there's one more thing here today. I want to sum it up with President Trump, all right? Give you a little bit of hope, a little bit of pep in your step. Here he is.
It helps when you know that borders are not racist, speech is not violence, America is good, terrorists are bad, men can never become women, police are not criminals, and criminals are not victims.
It's kind of just perfect, isn't it? Kind of just, in fact, go ahead and play that one more time. That's kind of just perfect. One more time, let's hear that.
It helps when you know that borders are not racist, speech is not violence, America is good, terrorists are bad, men can never become women, police are not criminals, and criminals are not victims.
Yeah. We're going to put a bow right there and leave it right there for this moment. Makes you feel good, puts a smile on your face to start the day, doesn't it? Men, pay attention. I got something for you. Men, business leaders, entrepreneurs, this is the first ever men's only event packed with the most elite voices in business leadership and global strategy. Built to give you the edge to dominate in life and business right now. I want you to join Garrett White, the unstoppable founder of Wake Up Warrior, taking the stage at the Man in the Arena Tour. It's a blueprint to build, lead, and conquer. Seats are going fast. Don't get left behind. Lock in a ticket right now, maninthearenatour.com. It's happening right now. That's maninthearenatour.com. Step up, lead strong, win big, and join me. I'll be there. The first event, May 17th, Salt Lake City, Utah. 7,000 men, business leaders. What a marketing and networking opportunity for you. And to meet men that are of like mind, Christian men, trying to find the path forward. maninthearenatour.com. Check that out. I'll be right back on The Steve Gruber Show. I will dig into this deeper over the next couple of days, but I want to give you the headlines here. I mentioned it off the top. The FBI lied. I know you're shocked to hear that, but the FBI lied about that baseball practice back in the summer of 2017 when they said, oh, it was just a guy trying to commit suicide by cop. Not at all. It was domestic terrorism carried out by a radical leftist. We knew it then. We talked about it then. A new report released yesterday substantiates everything I told you then. I was spot on, absolutely correct about all of it. Crazy leftist. Where'd he come from? Wisconsin or Minnesota, something. Here's the takeaway from just the news. The FBI misled the public for years in claiming that a sniper's attempt to kill Republican congressman at a June 2017 baseball practice was, quote, suicide by cop, when in fact it was domestic terrorism. Intelligence analysis tried to reinforce the suicide by cop argument at the FBI. Despite the clear and contrary facts in the case, the new House report concludes the FBI case file makes clear this case was a premeditated assassination attempt on Republican congressman by a radical left-wing political extremist who was seeking to affect the conduct of our government. That's a quote, by the way. Andy McCabe was the guy that was fueling this. Remember him, old Andy McCabe, dishonest as ever. And when a radical, bloodthirsty leftist came to kill Republicans, Andy McCabe covered it up and then the FBI lied about it. No surprise, and now you know. You've heard this before. Capitalism is evil. Capitalism is freedom. Wait, what is it? What is capitalism? Good question, because if everyone's talking about it, we should know what it is and understand it, and that's where Hillsdale College comes in. They're offering a brand new free online course, Understanding Capitalism. This is important for you, for your kids, for your grandkids. Just 7 fascinating lectures. You'll dive into profit and loss, human nature and freedom, and why capitalism is not a system of greed, but a system of morality and liberty. That's just one of over 40 free online courses at Hillsdale. No tuition, no strings. Look, you can learn more. Be the smartest person at the next get-together. Go to gruberforhillsdale.com right now. It's easy, free to enroll, free. gruberforhillsdale.com, gruberforhillsdale.com. Have your kids and grandkids watch this too. Set the stage, create the foundation of good education. gruberforhillsdale.com. I'll be right back.
Dan Hicks with Paul Azinger.
Getting back into the conversation now, I was in Washington here recently. You knew that, and I'll be going back here at the end of May for a week or 10 days to go to the White House. But when you're in Washington, you meet all sorts of interesting people because that's where the power center is. People that are working for, NGOs and nonprofits, they're all there, and you never know who you're going to run into. So I sat down for lunch, and I ran into these 2 guys from MMI, Money Management International. And the way it is described, it's one of the nation's oldest and largest nonprofit credit and housing counseling agencies. And I said to the 2 gentlemen I was saying to, I said, nonprofit, I hear a lot of these people that talk about eliminating debt for people and so forth, but they're always for-profit operation. They say, yeah, we can do it better and for less money, and we've been doing it for a very long time. So I said, I'm curious. I want to find out more. That's why Thomas Nitsche is here. He's the Vice President, Public Relations for Money Management International. Thomas, thank you for being here. I was surprised to hear that in this case, we were talking about eliminating debt. People get jammed up on their credit cards, their mortgage, whatever it may be, and they get jammed up. And I was surprised to hear it was a nonprofit. Is that unusual?
Yeah, it's unusual for people to know that we exist sometimes. We are up against a lot of for-profit players in the industry that have really deep advertising pockets. So you'll see a lot of the advertisements for settle your debt for penny on the dollar, or will improve your credit score overnight for a fee, that sort of thing. But we've existed since the late 1950s, almost as long as credit cards themselves. And in most communities, we were known as Consumer Credit Counseling Service of insert city here. And then over the years, we've merged. We've had about 36 mergers over the past 20 or 30 years. And so we've consolidated under one name, which is Money Management International. And now one of the largest and oldest in the country. Every year we serve about 200,000 people in achieving financial goals, which are usually paying down debt, improving credit, preparing for home ownership, or avoiding eviction or foreclosure.
And you've been doing this since the 1950s. To me, it would seem then you probably have more experience in this arena, even if you are a bit smaller because of your nonprofit status, but you have more experience doing this for decades for people. And the gentleman that I spoke to, your colleagues, said because you're nonprofit, you're able to do this at a better rate for somebody. So if somebody's jammed up on debt, credit card, we'll use that as an example. If they come to you, they get it handled in a much more effective way financially. True or false?
Sure, absolutely. So one of the benefits of working with us is that we don't have the same overhead as a lot of the for-profits do. We don't spend the same amount in advertising. We have a much more efficient footprint as far as most of our employees are work from home. As you mentioned, we have a lot of tenure. Our average counselor's tenure is about 13 years, which for being a primarily call center environment, that is a very long time. For an employee to be with one organization. I've been with the organization since the Great Recession, when I was laid off from a global financial services company and started as a counselor myself, helping people who had been through very similar situations as myself, had just bought a house the year before and was worried about losing my home after getting laid off and becoming underemployed. And so I think, one of the advantages of working with us is that we have a lot of empathy. We're also not trying to sell you something. So we are purely here. We are first and foremost an educational organization. So we want to understand what your goals are. We want to understand what is happening with your finances, get a snapshot of where you're at this moment in time, understand what's coming in, what's going out, what obligations you have, what the status of the debt is, how much you owe, who you owe, what your assets are, what sort of income sources you have. And then based on all that information, collect dozens of data points on all of our clients. And from that information, we can analyze a path forward and see how we can help you achieve those goals. About a third of the clients that we counsel move forward with us in what's called a debt management program, which, as you mentioned, helps folks primarily with credit card debt, some other unsecured debt, personal loans, collection debt, that sort of thing, to help them get paid off within a reasonable amount of time. Yeah. On average, that program lasts about 4 years, and it reduces interest rates down to under 7% on average, so that most of what someone's paying, it becomes manageable. Most of what they're paying goes towards principal instead of interest.
Yeah, I call those dunning letters. I call those the nasty grams that people get. You do this, or we're going to wreck your life, and people get stressed. Thomas, I know you went through it a little bit, thinking about your home. What's going to happen to my home? What's going to happen to my family? People lay awake at night. They stop going to the mailbox. They stop answering their phone. They're completely stressed out. They either lose weight or eat their way through it. One of the two things. I mean, there's just, and it's terrible. When you have all that pressure and you're trying to figure out what to do next and you're trying to protect yourself and your family, it can just be awful. Now, you gave me some stats here from my home state of Michigan, and I want to share some of those because I find them interesting. In Michigan just last year, there was an increase of 28% in demand for credit counseling. And we've been hearing these stories. People have more credit card debt, more car loans are behind than they've been for a number of years. Obviously, this president's trying to turn the economy around and get things going again. But in the meantime, These facts have not changed. A 28% increase in demand for credit counseling. New clients in Michigan carried unsecured debt 13% higher than the year before. I'm going to guess this is probably true for most of the country. Unsecured debt continues to increase as people try to bridge the gap between the money they have coming in and the debts that they have to service. An average of $30,000 with only a 7% increase in household expense. So debt went up 13%, right? Income went up 7%. That's not, I'm not real good with math, but I can tell you that's not a winning formula.
Yeah, and what we've seen is that despite the income increasing, that living expenses have outpaced the average increase in income. So what we're seeing is a greater budget deficit, meaning that after we subtract all the housing living expenses out of somebody's income, that the number they have at the end of the month keeps growing. You know, a couple years ago, it was about $150 a month that they were short when they first come to us, and now it's closer to about $250, $300 a month that they're short. And so credit cards are a familiar, relatively safe financial tool that people turn to when they're faced with a shortcome like that. But unfortunately, at some point, you run out of runway on that card, right? If you're swiping, month after month, you have that shortfall and you keep swiping. Eventually, you run out of credit limit, or you run out of ability to even pay minimum payments.
Yeah.
And so
Or
at that
both.
point is when many people turn to us. Yeah, exactly.
Or both. Short-term debt, swipe the credit card, bridge the gap, try to make it through. You service between 200 and 250,000 customers all over America, all over the country, trying to get their feet back on the ground, I guess would be, Thomas, is just to stabilize their life and be able to sleep at night and not be stressed out all the time. How does somebody find out more about what you... Two things, real quick. We got about a minute. How does somebody start the process with you, and how do they find you?
Right. So the best way is online, moneymanagement.org. There's information about what we do, who we are, and we can actually do the entire process online. What we found is that a lot of people, there's a lot of social stigma about debt, even though it's so common, as you mentioned.
Sure.
A lot of people don't want to talk about it. They don't, people would rather talk about almost anything than personal finance and debt, because they see it as some sort of a personal failure. Like, I did something wrong.
Right.
What's wrong with me? I can't get my finances together. And what we see is that time after time, it's not necessarily that they've done anything wrong, although there's always going to be, some element of people who didn't make the best choices. But in many cases, it's just a effect of the environment we're living in, or the period of a prolonged inflation.
It's tough out there. It's
Yeah,
tough
and
out there.
about 1 in 5 clients that we meet with are coming to us because of a medical issue. Well,
And those
obviously
happen
nobody
to it. Now,
chooses that.
I got to leave it here, but I'll have you back. But I want people to start with that. Moneymanagement.org. If you've got a concern today, start there. Thomas Nitsche, nonprofit, Money Management International. Interesting conversation. I appreciate you being here.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having us.
And I'll be right back. It's the Steve Gruber Show. Here is a shocking headline that I want to share with you. Here's a shocking headline. COVID vaccines killed more people than World War I, World War II, and Vietnam combined. That comes from a colleague of my next guest. That comes from Nicholas Holscher. He's an epidemiologist. He's with the McCullough Foundation. 600,000 people, he says. And I bring that to your attention for an important reason. Dr. Peter McCullough will be with me tonight on a special Spaces event, 9 o'clock Eastern. We're going to talk about all of these things. We're going to talk about that, COVID, bird flu, being healthy, Bobby Kennedy, all of it. So don't miss that tonight. And make sure you join us today. We need 25 new followers on X. Are you one of them? That's Steve Gruber's show. Peter McCullough, the doctor, is here with me, the Chief Scientific Officer at the Wellness Company. Doctor, nice to see you today.
Great to see you.
Really looking forward to this conversation tonight because we'll have a lot more time than we do on this program, and we'll be able to explore some things. Here's where I want to start today. Health and Human Services under Bobby Kennedy announced a new Take Control of Your Health campaign. I mean, this is brilliant, but that's exactly what the Wellness Company has been preaching for years, right?
For sure. People can take care of their health through, health and wellness education, nutraceutical supplements, diet, fitness. There's too much of a reliance on the conventional medical system. Pharmaceuticals now are piling up on people. It's time to have a reset. We need a great reset in health, and that's what Kennedy's proposing.
What's a nutraceutical? What is that?
A nutraceutical is a supplement or a vitamin, but typically in a blend at much higher doses, medicinal grade, actually given intentionally to have a medicinal action, but without taking a prescription drug.
Yeah. Okay. I saw a headline yesterday, probably didn't surprise many people, but I was kind of disappointed. Rite Aid. They're filing bankruptcy again. All of those pharmacies going dark after they ran all the mom and pop pharmacies out of so many neighborhoods across this country. The point being is finding your medications a lot harder than it used to be here in the next few weeks because they're going to be gone. Rite Aid's going to be gone completely. You've talked about having a stockpile of prescription medications in people's homes for years here, Doctor. Obviously, it becomes more pressing now, I would say.
I agree. Two ways at the Wellness Company to defend yourself against prescription drug shortages. One is by having emergency medical kits. The biggest one is the field kit that has the broadest variety of critical drugs needed in the setting of an emergency. And then Wellness Company membership, Steve, at the middle and higher level, there's free prescriptions, and they come through our pharmacy mart in Beaumont, Texas, and we have ample supplies. I think people should get memberships, go ahead and get their drugs re-prescribed so we can get through this period of trade negotiations with China.
Yeah, and here's what it looks like for those of you that are on streaming or on television. This is the basic kit. There are several kits. There's travel kits and first aid kits, but the medical emergency kit is the first. And so it's the basic building block of making sure you're taken care of in the case there's an emergency. It could be a hurricane, it could be a tornado, it could be an ice storm, could be an earthquake, it could be just the fact that the power goes out, whatever it might be, or that the Rite Aid disappeared and you've got a problem at home and you've got to get to some medications that are right here in the kit. So check that out. One of the fundamentals, of course, that we're talking about already, taking care of your own health, being proactive. What are some key things individuals, people like me, should be doing to avoid getting sick in the first place so we don't need a kit, we don't need to panic?
Steve, nasal sprays and gargles twice a day. I just got up. I did my nasal spray and gargle. Wellness Company features Immune Mist, which is an iodine-based gargle. Outside Wellness Company, my favorites are Clear and Spry from the company Clear. You could use these and should use these twice a day, every day, because the virus is up in the nose for about 5 days before it goes back to the throat and causes a sore throat. So you have 5 days you could have actually reduced the viral load, let the mucosal immunity take over. So nasal sprays and gargles, best way to reduce the frequency of colds, flu, RSV, COVID.
You know, I just saw some more fear-mongering on headlines this morning about the bird flu. I'm not terribly concerned about the bird flu, but they let me know there are new vaccines available right now. We can get lined up for flu vaccines for the bird flu. I'm not going to be taking one. But your nasal wash, your gargling, that can prevent against a lot of this illness, can it?
It sure is. It's the first line of defense against bird flu. Wellness Company, we've already outfitted the the farmers free of charge with bird flu kits. So we have it covered. Ever since we did that, bird flu kind of settled down out of the news. Egg prices started to go down. I think the farmers finally stopped culling this ridiculous killing of healthy chickens. And bird flu was, in many ways, Steve, a war of information in the media,
Yeah.
not a real threat to humans.
It doesn't seem to be, but like I said, the fear porn is out there every day. They're trying to ratchet it up. For what reason? I don't know. Maybe they sell a few more newspapers. I want to ask you about one other thing. We got a couple of minutes left here. Ivermectin and mebendazole. Ivermectin is an anti-parasitic. It's very effective. And I've been reading extensively recently, doctor, about parasites in people's bodies. I feel sluggish. I feel tired. I'm fatigued, whatever it might be. And you've gone through everything. You've tried everything. You're doing nutrition. You're drinking your water. You're taking your vitamins. Could it be parasites that are slowing me down?
It could. The CDC in 2014 put out a very extensive piece on the underdiagnosis of parasites. They claim millions of Americans have parasitic diseases and they're underdiagnosed. They have vague symptoms. We know that there are parasites in fish, for instance, salmon, sushi,
Sure.
and uncooked seafood. Basically, you can acquire parasites, or drinking stream water, or traveling. So indeed, patients should see a doctor. There are stool, ova, and parasite tests, which are only partially sensitive. But in the right clinical context, people should consider a parasite cleanse. Wellness company, we have ivermectin mebendazole combination under a doctor's prescription. This can handle the problem and solve what for many patients is an enigma. Why are they chronically sick and nobody can figure it out?
Yeah, and it's the hottest thing going, by the way, at the wellness company from all accounts. Ivermectin, mebendazole. You can get it at twc.health/Gruber. Go to the wellness company, find out more about all the things we've talked about today. twc.health/Gruber. You'll save 10%. And tonight, don't forget, join me and Dr. Peter McCullough. We'll have extensive conversations about COVID, bird flu, Health and Human Services, Bobby Kennedy, and all the things we face medically in this country today. Doctor, thank you. We'll talk a bit later.
See you then.
There you have it. Again, that's a Spaces event. You have to be following on Twitter, X if you prefer, at Steve Gruber Show. I need 25 new followers right now. You want to hear Dr. McCullough tonight? Do that. We'll talk a little bit later. I'll be right back. Pam Bondi, 11.5 kilograms of fentanyl seized. Might be the largest fentanyl seizure in American history, she's announced, including 3 million fentanyl pills. 3 million. Are they real? They counterfeit? Plus 35 kilos of methamphetamine, 7.5 kilos of cocaine, 4.5 kilos of heroin, $5 million in cash, 49 rifles and pistols, 16 people, including 3 men. Excuse me, including 3 women arrested in the operation, 6 of the men in the country illegally, illegal aliens, moving 12 kilos of fentanyl, 3 million pills. You know, I'm sure they deserve a chance to have due process. They need due process. Just ask those on the left. Even if they have 3 million fentanyl pills and they're here illegally, they should be offered a place to stay and a court-appointed attorney, at your expense, of course. And the Supreme Court has stayed a lower court ruling allowing Trump transgender ban to proceed. The ban on transgenderism will continue in the U.S. military, and that's the way it is for now. You know what keeps me going? 1775 coffee, bold, high quality, built for those who refuse to compromise. I tell you about it here because I love this coffee. Hand-picked, high-altitude, single-origin beans. Look, this stuff is roasted. I'm a coffee snob. I am. So's Ivy. This stuff's roasted to perfection. No toxins, no shortcuts. What do we say? Just damn good coffee. See, that's what happens. It's in my cup every day. Go to 1775coffee.com. Use the promo code Gruber, and you'll save 10%, and you will be glad you did. You'll start your morning off with coffee that stands for something. Oh, and for every dollar you spend, that's an entry to win a Cybertruck. That's right. You can win a Cybertruck, $30,000 in cash. 1775 coffee. Bold flavor. Exceptional quality. No BS. You know, no BS, like the Steve Gruber Show. Really? Yeah, that's right. All right, still to come. Larry Ward will be here, the chairman of the Constitutional Rights PAC. Risa Ryan will be here from Unretire. Unretire. Are you still working? Do you want to still be working? I don't anticipate retiring, never completely. I would be bored out of my mind. I've always worked. Since I was about 12 or 14 years of age, I've always worked and will always work. It's the Steve Gruber Show. Don't forget Dr. Peter McCullough tonight at 9 o'clock on Twitter. A special Spaces event, 9 p.m. at Steve Gruber Show. Kicking off another brand new hour here by lighting the fuse. It's going to be explosive once again here, folks. Glad to have you on board for the conversation live from Studio G. And remember, this could have a triggering effect. You could have long spells of patriotism and feeling good about America, so you have been warned. Here are 3 big things you need to know this hour. Number 1, Columbia University laying off hundreds of employees after $400 million in federal grants were revoked when the university refused to comply with federal law on DEI and other initiatives. Number 2, ICE captures one of the most wanted terrorist gang members in the world. And of course, they were here in the country illegally because, of course, they were. And number 3, deportations and due process. Deportations and due process. That's the big argument for Democrats these days. And we're going to repeat ourselves here a little bit. I, for one, think if you are here illegally, you were never vetted at the border, you dodged that, you slipped through, then you forfeited any sort of due process that you may have been afforded. I mean, how can anyone claim any kind of special right if they broke into the country? That's the first question you ask. Look, due process is here to protect citizens, you and me, against overzealous government overreach. That's what due process is for, to make sure you're treated fairly in the process, in the legal system. It's not for people that came into the country illegally, not like these 6 guys that had 3 million fentanyl pills. It's not for them. They don't get a hearing and special treatment and a lawyer that you pay for. No, sir. Byron Donalds, by the way, the man that's a congressman from Florida now running for governor, points out being a citizen matters and due process is different for illegals. Here he is.
When it comes to due process, that is a privilege reserved for American citizens. When people are in our country illegally, there is a semblance of due process, but not nearly at the level of a United States citizen, of an American. There are 2 different standards. You come to America, you are a guest in the United States. That privilege can be revoked. And a lot of these illegal aliens were not guests. They showed up at the southern border. Joe Biden abused our laws, ignored our laws, and let them in. And yet, so what are the American people supposed to say about that?
Exactly. Thank you, Byron Donalds. Here's the update on that. On that note I just gave you, Immigration and Customs Enforcement made a high-profile arrest Monday in Maryland. DHS reported that Joel Armando Mejia Benitez, 38, is a validated MS-13 gang member from El Salvador who has no visas, approved or pending, at the moment of his arrest. ICE Baltimore arrested Mejia Benitez, an MS-13 gang member, with an Interpol red notice. That's from Europe. He first entered the country illegally in 2005 and was deported. He then re-entered the country illegally on an unknown day before he was arrested by his Baltimore police, HIS Baltimore, 2014. He was issued a notice to appear and released back into Silver Spring, Maryland. Of course he was, under the Biden administration. DHS Assistant Secretary Tricia McLaughlin said an Interpol red notice was put out by the International Legal Group asking to locate and provisionally arrest somebody. It's not considered an international arrest warrant per se, but it's meant to make sure a person is taken into custody for further legal action. According to Interpol's website, the red notice database has about 6,500 individuals on it. The arrest comes as the Department of Homeland Security marks 100 days with Secretary Kristi Noem at the helm. 100 days was Monday. This criminally illegal gang member and suspected terrorist should have never been released into our country. Thanks to President Trump and Secretary Noem, he is off our streets and will soon be out of the country, said McLaughlin. By the way, Secretary Noem defends the truth in a hearing on deportations happened yesterday. Democrats don't want to hear it. They don't want anything. They don't want to hear any of this. Listen.
Were any of the individuals who were deported, who had U.S. citizen children deported with them, were they given an opportunity to sign that form?
When these, the specific cases that you're referencing with these children, it was the parents' choice to take their children with them.
Did ICE
which it is the
follow
policy
through
of the
on
Trump
the policy?
administration to keep families together.
Ma'am, reclaiming my time. I told you at the top of this, ma'am, reclaiming my time. I said that the questions are really simple, yes or no. Was that form used in any of those cases?
I will get back
yes
to you
or
on
no?
that
Okay,
specific form. I
perfect.
don't know the
Thank
number,
you.
but I do
That's-
know these mothers
Okay,
went on
thank
the
you.
record
The
filling out
second form,
paperwork
ma'am,
and in
reclaiming my
interviews
time.
reiterating
Ma'am,
they wanted to
please,
keep their
ma'am,
children with them.
reclaiming my time. I'd like you to avoid the filibuster so I can get to all my questions, please.
Another piece of garbage over here. I'd like to avoid the filibuster. Then let the woman answer a question. But they're not there to answer questions. They're there so they can get a couple of sound bites on social media and grandstand, quite obviously. What they were talking about there were children, their parents were deported. And their children are allegedly American citizens. I say allegedly because I don't believe that the 14th Amendment allows for people to just come here and have children. They're automatically American citizens. I've never believed that was the way it should be read. I agree with Donald Trump on this. We'll see how the Supreme Court comes out on it, but they're going to argue that out. The 14th Amendment was there to protect recently freed slaves, not to make America subservient to a flood of illegals having children here and then claiming they're American citizens. The people that were deported were illegal aliens who had children that they claimed were American citizens. The children were not deported. The parents took the kids with them, just to be clear. Meanwhile, Pam Bondi made an announcement that the biggest fentanyl seizure in American history, it all happened in New Mexico. The question is, how deep is the corruption in New Mexico these days? Told you about this earlier. Here's more.
This multi-agency operation led by DEA with our local, state, tribal, and federal partners targeted one of the largest and most dangerous drug trafficking and foreign terrorist organizations in our country. The DEA seized 11.5 kilos of fentanyl, including an astounding approximately 3 million fentanyl pills, the largest seizure in our nation's history. These are the pills in the bags right there. The main bottom right, the head of this organization, Sinaloa organization, here in the country illegally, 6 of these guys and women here in the country illegally. His name is Alberto Salazar Amaya. He is the leader, and he was living in Salem, Oregon. With him, they got millions of dollars, cash, cars, but the drugs were in Albuquerque, Phoenix, and Utah. That's how insulated these drug dealer cartel leaders make themselves.
And how deep is the corruption for that to be true? This incredible network of drug dealers. But the kingpin is hundreds, thousands of miles away, living a life of luxury before being taken down. I'm sure the Democrats want to make sure he gets due process as well. And while he's getting due process, maybe his dealers can kill a few more American teenagers. I have no patience for this nonsense, none. Stand up and be heard, America. Kick these illegal aliens out, period. Due process, limited at best. I'll take a break. It's the Steve Gruber Show. Hey, here we go. Ready to do this again with more spectacular conversations, and I'm glad you're here. Don't forget, tonight, 9 o'clock, Spaces on X with Dr. Peter McCullough. I'll join you there. It's going to be an exciting event talking about all sorts of things. Meanwhile, Larry Ward is with me. He's the chairman of the Constitutional Rights PAC. Larry, welcome back.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Greatly appreciated. So Ed Martin being blocked by the likes of Tom Tillis in North Carolina, but it seems to be gaining some momentum to be U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia. But Cornyn so far has not given support that I saw. Hawley predicting a vote. Well, where are we today? Read the tea leaves, sort the cards.
Well, Cornyn actually did come out. He would vote for Ed Martin. He's in a very tough primary with Ken Paxton, and I'm sure Ken Paxton would support Ed Martin, so he was kind of forced into it. Hopefully that starts tilting a little bit back into Ed's favor. Look, this is the most important confirmation we have left, and it was probably one of the most important confirmations for those of us who seek justice. It's one of the most important confirmations we had, period, because we have a guy like in Ed Martin who is an absolute, true, honest Christian patriot who will stand for justice and who will actually hold people accountable in D.C. And on the opposite side, won't let the federal government and these crazy Democrats weaponize the system against conservatives. If Ed Martin was the U.S. attorney in D.C., there would not be this railroading of January 6ers. There would not be this railroading of conservatives and letting every Democrat off the hook.
Let me ask you this. Tom Tillis still pushing back. He's in a primary contest, too. I think his opponent's name is Don Brown, who's ready to take him down in North Carolina. People trust me, I got family in North Carolina. They are not Tom Tillis fans. They are not. They think that he's just a spongy, spineless weasel. I think those are the polite words they used. What do you think about Tom Tillis? Is he going to come over and support Martin? Because thus far he is not.
Or unless he doesn't care about his political career. He might be reading the tea leaves, and this might be a vengeance play. Look, Tom Tillis saying that this is all about January 6th because Ed Martin supported and defended some January 6ers. Are you kidding me?
4.5 years ago?
I mean, not only 4.5 years ago, that Ed Martin had the gall to defend and help support some January 6ers that were being railroaded by the Biden administration. You're holding a grudge against him for giving people actual defense. It's ridiculous. There was an injustice with many of these grandmothers who were being hunted by the FBI for daring to come and protest at the Capitol and did nothing wrong and did nothing violent, and they were being locked up and their lives were being turned upside down just for sport, for liberal sport. And Ed Martin had the gall to stand up to the machine on this, and that's why
aren't all
Tom Tillis
Americans allowed to have a vigorous defense? In fact, not only allowed, but it's almost mandatory. That's why we have court-appointed attorneys, right, Larry?
Not January 6ers, apparently, according to the deep state Republicans. Not January 6ers, because they were scared that day. They were scared that the people came and tried to hold the election accountable.
Let me ask you about something else. Speaking of the election coming up next year, a lot of Senate seats up for grabs. 2 of them could have been taken by former governors. It's pretty clear. New Hampshire is pretty clear that Chris Sununu would have been able to walk away with a seat for the Republicans. And he's not radically conservative, and he's not a buddy of Donald Trump, but he is a Republican. Same thing with Governor Kemp in Georgia. And both said no. The Republicans currently have 53 seats in the United States Senate. They could also have a play in places like Michigan, where there's an open Senate seat this time around. It could have been dramatic change for the Republicans to secure the United States Senate for years to come. And these 2 Republican governors both said no. Why do you think that is?
Well, look, I think they both said no because they are not, quite frankly, they've been dealing with a lot of angst from their parties that, quite frankly, don't like the way they were behaving, as governor and especially behaving towards Trump. Look, I still think we can win those seats. Those seats are winnable. Those are not the only two guys that can win in those states. And I think that we have an opportunity to put some real true conservatives in those places. I still think that in 2 years that we could get close to, here's the caveat. The economy's got to be good, right? It's always about the economy. It's always about how people are feeling and doing. And if the Trump tariff bet plays out the way that Donald Trump believes it will, and we have a booming economy, I think we walk away with the Senate. We get close to 58, 59, maybe even 60 seats. But it's got to if the economy
How would you
is
get to
good,
60? Where would you count votes to get to 60? I mean, you'd have to pick up Michigan, Minnesota.
We'd have to have that quote unquote red wave that nobody wants to speak about, right?
Right.
But I think that there's a possibility for that red wave because the Democrats have nobody. They have nothing. They have just anti-Trump. So if Trump's policies work, and here's my point, here's my caveat: if Trump policies work, and we're starting to come out of this, this little economic slowdown, and there's a boom in the next 2 years, the Democrats will have nothing to stand on, not a leg to stand on, and the Republicans should run away with it.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. Always appreciate talking to you, Larry. You bring good perspective. I think that Republicans could pick up a couple of seats. It'd be nice to pick up 3 or 4. That would be remarkable. And to get to 60 seats, wouldn't that be something? Wouldn't that be something? Larry Ward, Chairman, Constitutional Rights PAC. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much for having me.
Always appreciate talking to you. Still to come, Risa Ryan, founder of the Unretire Group. Unretire your workforce. Thrive by hiring retirees. Really? Why would that be? A veteran workforce, and veteran news anchors, and veteran everybody. I mean, I could hire some veterans around here, a lot available, right? I'll take a break and be back. It's the Steve Gruber Show. Columbia is laying folks off. I mentioned this at the top of the program today. Columbia University laying off a couple hundred folks. That Ivy League school recently lost $400 million in federal funding over anti-Semitism concerns. It'll cut 180 staff members today, following the Trump administration's announcement in March, canceling $400 million in federal grants over the failure, this is a quote, the failure to protect Jewish students from anti-Semitic harassment. Across the research portfolio, we've had to make the difficult choices, and unfortunately today, nearly 180 of our colleagues who have been working in whole or in part on impacted federal grants will receive notices of non-renewal or termination. This represents 20% of the individuals who are funded in some manner by the terminated grants. You see, if you don't follow federal law, there are consequences. Did you know scammers can literally steal your home right out from under you? We talk about this. The FBI calls it house stealing. And believe it or not, it's a growing real estate scam targeting American homeowners. Is that you? Here's how it works. Pretty simple. Criminals forge your signature on a document. Use a fake notary stamp. You know how easy this is? A lot easier than you can believe. Fake IDs today are almost impossible to identify. Same thing with this stuff. You pay a small fee, you file it with your local recorder's office, just like that. The home title that is yours has been taken out of your name. Then the thief can take out loans using your equity as collateral, even sell the property behind your back. And the worst part is you don't even know this is happening until you start getting collection notices. Let me ask you, when was the last time you looked at your home title? If you're like me, the answer was never. That's why I trust Home Title Lock. The $1 million triple lock protection helps keep your home and equity safe. Here's what you get. Immediate 24/7 monitoring of your property. Urgent alerts if there are any changes. And if fraud should occur, their U.S.-based restoration team will spend up to $1 million to fix the fraud and restore your title at no cost. Here's the best part. I've teamed up with Home Title Lock to give you a free title history report so you can find out if you're a victim. Access your personal title expert, a $250 value just for signing up. Go to HometitleLock.com. Use my promo code Gruber. HometitleLock.com. My promo code Gruber. Click on the link in the description, HometitleLock.com, promo code Gruber, and get started today for peace of mind and sleep well. I'll be back. All right. Tough in some sectors to be a business owner. It's been a bit of a rocky ride. And, you know, you look at what's happening with the stock market, whiplash. It was down and then it was up, and now it's climbing a little bit today. It's going to be up about 300 points on the open. But if you're a small business owner, how do you mitigate the risk? Maybe you should hire veteran employees. Risa Ryan is the CEO and founder of the Unretire Group. Joining me now. Risa, nice to have you here on the program.
Hi, Steve. Thanks for having me.
All right. What is the Unretire Group?
So we are a platform that connects retirees from the insurance industry with companies in the insurance industry, whether it's a broker, an agent, an insurance company that has project work that needs to get done. They go to the platform, post a project, and hire these skilled, veteran, experienced, ready to work and eager retirees.
And why just that industry, or is this just the first step into going wider?
Yeah, it's just the first step into going wider. I grew up in the insurance industry. I know it. I have a lot of connections, and I figured it's probably the best place to start. So we launched just after the first of the year on the retiree side. We have a couple hundred retirees signed up already, and we opened for companies just about 3 or 4 weeks ago, and have had a couple post projects and have filled them already. So we're off to a really good start.
You're pleased with the progress so far. I mean, when you start something new, it's always that little pit of your stomach thing going, well, is this going to work? Where are we going to go? You seem pleased. You've got a smile on your face, so that's a pretty good start.
No, I'm thinking about that pit in my stomach. And, I'm generally a really good sleeper, but sometimes I do wake up going, what in the world have I done? But, I really, really believe this is such an important effort for companies. You mentioned the volatility in the stock market and inflation, and insurance companies don't like uncertainty, or they do, but they charge for it. It's part of the risk load that companies bake in. So it's a difficult time right now. And for companies, what they're going to be able to do is hire retirees. You don't pay benefits. You don't pay into people's 401ks. You get this skilled talent, and you can scale it up and down according to your needs. Insurance is very seasonal. And so you can kind of manage your workforce with this gig economy, which is new to insurance.
I was in a men's clothing department of a nice store over in Grand Rapids, Michigan, not long ago, a few weeks ago. And the gentleman that came out to help me obviously was a bit older, and he knew everything. I mean, he looked at me, you got to do this and this and boom. I mean, perfect. I said, how old are you? He goes, I'm 85. 85.
I love it.
With a huge smile on his face going, look, they came and hired me out of retirement, just like you're talking about here, and he was thrilled. And his expertise, that's what was so special about it. He knew the game. He knew everything about it. And that's what you're looking for here, experience, because there's no substitute for it, is there?
Absolutely. There is no substitute. And the thing is, it used to be if you retired, like say you retired at 60 in the 1960s, you were retiring from transportation and manufacturing and industrial jobs. You retired, and you were probably dead in 10 years, if you were lucky. Now we're retiring at 60 from knowledge-based work. So we've all been sitting at our computers for 40 years or 30 years. And we're looking at a 30-year vacation. Essentially, we're living to 80, 90 years old. And so it's so different. There's no reason why we shouldn't be working at 85 in some capacity. Maybe 85 is a little tricky, but that experience and that expertise is so incredibly important for companies. It's important for passing along all of that knowledge and those soft skills to the younger generation that's just coming up. That
soft
maybe
skills.
they're a little.
I never even knew what that was until recently. Soft skills. Dress appropriately, show up on time. I played a soundbite on the program here just yesterday about this young woman who was all emotional because the place she was interviewing would not account for time blindness, i.e. being late to work. Time blindness. You show up late. I'm sorry, that's not, they actually have a term for this. No, you show up on time. You show up dressed. You show up with the appropriate attitude, the materials to do the job. I don't care if you're laying bricks or running a computer. You show up ready to go, don't you?
Absolutely. And the thing is too, like now, people have this squirrely view of when they're working and how they're working and where they're working. So it used to be I'd get on a 6 o'clock train and commute into New York so I could be at my desk at 7:30, hit the ground running, start my day. Now you get on the train at 9 o'clock and you call your commute work time because you're working on the train, like and doing whatever. And that's not the way it works. That is, it's you've got to be in the office, you've got to be connecting with people, you've got
That's
to
right.
have that. Yeah, it's
Another
different.
story I've told, and I'll share one more with you. A friend of mine was doing some hiring, and they had selected a few people for interviews. And one of the folks called and said, "Hey, young person, just graduated from college. Hey, I'm coming in. How much am I getting paid for the interview?" And the guy just said to him, "What interview?" Click. That was the end of that.
Good.
I mean, seriously, if
right.
you've got your head driven that far up your, well, then we're not having that conversation. You won't work here. I'll give you the last thought here. It's the silver tsunami. Hire veteran employees, hire people that know what they're doing. That's what you're talking about, right?
Yeah, exactly. And you can do it at unretired.io. Just go to the website. You can reach me at Risa at unretired.io. The retirees, it's just an incredible talent pool that companies can hire quickly. They get the skill and and it's at a significant savings to them.
Yeah, well, it's good for the workforce. It's good for the people who are going back to work oftentimes for their mental health and their well-being and their self-worth. All
There's
of that,
dignity
Risa.
in work. Yep, there's dignity in work, and the social connections are incredibly important, and just to
All of
continue
it.
contributing.
Yeah. Unretired.io. Unretired.io. Go ahead and check that out. I appreciate you being here. Give us an update here before too much time passes. I want to know that you're doing well.
Thank you. I certainly will.
Thank you very
Thanks,
much.
Steve.
There you have it. What a great idea. Look, there is no substitute for experience. In those stories I shared, how much am I getting paid for the interview? I'm sorry, what interview? Time blindness? Really? Time blindness. Oh, I can't show up on time. Yeah, that's just silly stuff, right? But these are the soft skills, they call this. I just call that, being ready to go to work. Did we fail our kids and grandkids by not teaching them? You show up on time, you show up ready to go. My kids aren't that way. My daughters resent the idea of being late. Resent it. If something happens to my middle child and she doesn't make it to work on time, it'll set her whole day sideways. She goes, I don't like being late ever. Drilled into her for whatever reason, right? That's the way it should be. That's the way it should be. Anyhow, still to come on the program, Ron Rademacher will be here to talk about Mother's Day. If your mother has passed like mine, I'm sorry, but if she has not, take the time. Do something special. More after the break here on The Steve Gruber Show. are you ready for Real ID? Because today is the day. Real ID. Do you have that star on your driver's license? Do you or do you not? I do. Do you or do you not have the star on your driver's license? Washington, D.C. considered one of the jurisdictions of highest compliance with this deal. You have to have Real ID to fly. Yet the deadline is today. Still swaths of the country where travelers could run into trouble hitting the skies for summer break. 12 states more than 90% compliant. And for those of you that, well, this is just an intrusion. You know, look, they're intruding everywhere. And not to dismiss it, but good Lord. Your phone, your computer, you willfully take those things where you go. This phone of yours is an electronic tether. You think they can't find you? How about the car you own? How new is it? Another electronic tether. You think they can't find you? These cars keep track of your driving record, what you're doing if there's an accident. By God, it'll tell the police you were speeding at the time of the accident or had left your lane or whatever it is. These machines are tattling on you all the time, and you're worried about the driver's license in your pocket. Your priorities might be a little bit out of sync, and I'm just being honest with you. Texas has 98% compliance, Mississippi 97%, Hawaii and Utah 96%. Most places are on board with their Real ID. So Amtrak stops also need Real ID. Oh, wait, Real ID not required for interstate or interstate rail travel. There's a star emblazoned in the upper corner to denote the holder has provided additional identifying documentation like a Social Security card to a government agent. It will be required for air travel and to enter most government or military installations. So that takes effect today. Are you prepared for Real ID? Pretty sure Ivy's got hers as well. I'm going to have to ask. I have to check with my kids, too. Do you have Real ID? Are you all up to speed on that? Pretty important question, don't you think? Meanwhile, I want to compare and contrast a little bit. I've been looking at this for the last couple of days. You know, I used to go to Drudge Report, and look at things until Matt Drudge went off the deep end, became a complete anti-conservative, cheers against America, cheers against Donald Trump, cheers for Donald Trump to fail and therefore America to fail. At every step, he just puts up headlines, right? One of the headlines is this: global shipping is grinding to a standstill. This comes from MSN. Of course, that's a very left-wing operation, MSN is. And so I decided to read the article. Let me share just the first couple of paragraphs. There aren't shortages of goods at U.S. stores yet, but if the deterioration in global shipping is any indication, they are on the way. That could complicate the White House's pleas for Americans to be patient as trade officials rush to strike dozens of deals. Cargo has dropped or is expected to. So, but could, it may have dropped or it could drop at major ports due to including those in Los Angeles, Long Beach, in New York and New Jersey, primarily of shipments from China that have dropped. U.S. import bookings from China have dropped 35% since March, according to shipping data from Vizion, including a 26% drop between the week of April 21 and the following week. Shipments from China dropped nearly 43% in the last full week of April, the sharpest decline of the year. So, is it a concern? I mean, so I read this, and it's if and could and maybe, and so they have this headline, global shipping grinding to a standstill. And then the whole article is filled with if and could and maybe. Matt Drudge is regurgitating garbage and putting these, these fear porn headlines out there for home. So here's the question. If you couldn't buy a couple of new shirts for a while or a new pair of tennis shoes, is that a big deal? Is there anything really that you couldn't live with today? Let's say for the sake of argument, it's all true. That these things are not available, that the ships coming from China and the 145% tariffs are choking off distribution of consumer goods from China. What can you not live without for a few weeks or even forever that come from China? What items being shipped here from China can you not live without? We got some coffee cups recently. Flipped it over. Made in China. I got plenty of coffee cups. I was in my closet yesterday. I looked around and said, man, I need to clean out my closet. You know why? I have too many shirts, too many pairs of pants, too much stuff. That's true of a lot of Americans. Your closet's just stuffed, and you got enough chairs and tables and TVs? Probably. And if not, go to a yard sale. I'm sure you can find everything you need. It's yard sale season. Serious question, though. If shipments drop, is there anything coming in from China you can't live without? And if so, what is it? Well, what's coming here, except maybe pharmaceuticals? And we're working quickly to fix that problem because that is a national security issue. When you have components of your pharmaceuticals for high blood pressure and obesity and diabetes, and they're being controlled by shipments coming out of China, that is important. That's critical, in fact. So, what is it that you cannot live without? I want to ask that of you because, look, some things could be slowing down. Good news, I can buy dog food here that's made in America, Great Lakes Pet Food, Michigan-made dog food. It's the best. We've been using it for years around here. GreatLakesPetFood.com. Real chicken, real turkey, real pork, not garbage fillers, and not garbage dog food from China. Remember those horror stories just a few years ago that all these dogs and cats were dying because of the crap that was in the Chinese-made pet food? God only knows what was in that pet food. I don't even want to know. But here's what I do know. At Great Lakes Pet Food, they make the best dog food available on the market today. It's American-made. It can be shipped right to your doorstep. Right to your doorstep. GreatLakesPetFood.com. GreatLakesPetFood.com. Digestible nutrition. You're going to love it. My dogs love it, and so will yours. Trust me on this. I'll be right back. All right, here you go. Time to check in on sports with my good friend Brock Palmbush.
With a look at sports, I'm Brock Palmbush. Tyrese Halliburton's three-pointer with 1 second left gave the Indiana Pacers a stunning 120-119 victory over the Cleveland Cavaliers in Game 2 of their Eastern Conference semifinal series last night in Cleveland. Pacers lead the series 2-0. Game 3 of the best-of-7 Friday night in Indianapolis. In the West, the Golden State Warriors drew first blood in their second-round series against the Minnesota Timberwolves, winning Game 1 99-88. This despite losing Steph Curry in the first half due to a hamstring injury. In the NHL playoffs, Jacob Slavin scored at 3:06 of overtime to give the Carolina Hurricanes a 2-1 victory over the Washington Capitals in Game 1 of their second-round series. And the Edmonton Oilers took Game 1 of their Western Conference second-round series 4-2 over the Vegas Golden Knights. In Major League Baseball, American League winners included the New York Yankees, Minnesota, and Texas. National League winners included Philadelphia, Milwaukee, and Arizona. That's a look at sports. Back to you, Steve.
All right, Brock, thank you for that. English became the official language of America on the 1st of March. President Trump signing an executive order on March 1 to make English the official language, but is it translating for everyone? Americans are divided over the fact that English has been deemed the official language. Not real divided. I'm all for it. I'm all for it. Shane, a Kentucky resident, said, though, I disagree with that. I think we're a melting pot. This is how the country was built hundreds of years ago. It was based on a group of people from different nations coming in to form this country. That's right, Shane. And what language did they speak, genius? English. English. The text of Trump's order stated the nationally designated language is at the core of a unified and cohesive society. The United States is strengthened by a citizenry that can freely exchange ideas in one shared language. One shared language. That's how you become a melting pot. This part of the program brought to you by NeuroGuard Plus. Stop concussions before they happen. Dr. Michael Hutchinson has created a mouth guard that's been patented for all athletes. It'll bring concussions down to 0.26% of the time. It is incredible. Keep your head in the game. Keep your head in the game. NeuroGuardPlus.com. Certified results from Michigan State and Wayne State. NeuroGuardPlus.com. Use the promo code Gruber. You'll save 10%. NeuroGuardPlus.com. That's right. Keep your head in the game. I'll be right back. All right, we are roaring into another brand new hour of the Steve Gruber Show. I'm glad you're here for the conversation. Look, trigger alert. You could feel good about yourself in this country once you listen to this program. A smile could be on your face for the rest of the day. You have been warned. We're patriotic. We believe in America and America first. Here are 3 big things you need to know right here on the Steve Gruber Show. Number 1, pandemic relief. Detroit wants to spend that money that it has to spend, COVID money, on water-damaged basements and pathways to parks. What's that to do with COVID? Nothing is your answer. Number 2, a court has slammed the door on the Oxford school shooter's bid for an appeal. Good. And number 3, ballots, book deals, and Benson. Michigan's Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson has a brand new book out, The Purposeful Warrior, standing up for what's right when the stakes are high. Yeah. All right, so it's $30 for a hardcover version. This is the scam, by the way, folks. Here's how this works. One of her wealthy supporters will go and buy 1,000 copies or 10,000 copies or whatever it may be. And that money floods in, makes the book a bestseller, and funds the campaign. And it's all legal, you see. It's a way to sidestep the limits on campaign financing. Oh, we'll just buy 10,000 books at $30 a piece, or whatever the case might be, right? But that's how it gets done. Welcome to the real world. The book was released under Maria Shriver's. By the way, this is from Michigan News Source, my news team, and boy, they do a great job. They really do. They do a great job. This article, let me see, who wrote this one? It looks like this comes from J.P. Isbell. Ballots, book deals, and Benson. You can find it at MichiganNewsSource.com. You can hear him at the top of the hour on 25 radio stations around Michigan as well, Michigan News Source. The Purposeful Warrior, the book released under Maria Shriver's Open Field Publishing label, hits the shelves 455 days before the Democratic primary for governor. That's August 4th, 2026. According to Benson's past actions, her version of standing up for what's right includes issuing guidance instructing election officials to presume the validity of absentee ballot signatures, not promptly cleaning up voter rolls, implementing rules limiting the activities of poll challengers, ignoring FOIA requests, and downplaying the fact that illegal immigrants were able to easily vote in Michigan elections in 2024. Seems that JP has some questions about the book. I do too. It also includes adamantly opposing the SAVE Act, Safeguard American Voter Eligibility Act, which Republican lawmakers passed in the U.S. House to ensure that only U.S. citizens are registered to vote in federal elections. About that legislation, Benson has said, quote, "The SAVE Act is not a reasonable effort. The SAVE Act would stop millions of Americans from registering to vote by requiring voters to register in person with either a birth certificate or U.S. passport." Oh, you don't have your birth certificate? I do. It's not going to prevent millions of Americans from voting. The book includes describing an incident in December 2020 when armed protesters gathered outside her home challenging the certification of Michigan's election results. It's the kind of protest usually reserved for Democrat-backed events like the ones on the lawns at the University of Michigan Regents by pro-Palestinian protesters and those who showed up in front of the homes of Republican-appointed Supreme Court justices in response to the leaked draft opinion, Dobbs v. Jackson Women's Health. Truth to that, too. Truth to that, too. Let's see here real quick. The kid who murdered his classmates will not be getting an appeal, it seems. The Court of Appeals denying the shooter's request and the attorney arguments. We don't use his name here. We don't use his name here because, well, we don't want to. And we're not going to glorify this kid who murdered his classmates now or ever. When the $1.9 trillion American Rescue Plan ARPA was introduced March 2021, the U.S. government spoke to delivering immediate economic relief to families, as the country was facing a deep economic crisis due to the pandemic. Instead, local governments across the country have strayed from that original mission, and now 5 years later, ARPA projects have little or nothing to do with COVID-19 and the pandemic, of course, but they've got all this money and they must spend it. They'll never send it back. They'll never say to the working people in America, gee, thanks, we don't need any more. Not now, not ever. The most recent examples are projects the Detroit City Council wants $9.4 million of ARPA money on. Some of the requests by city council members to spend the ARPA money include $450,000 to build a 6,000-foot pathway for a playground in a city park. $270,000 to build ramps for the homes of senior citizens. $965,000 to reimburse residents for water damage in their basements. They have to spend the money by 2026, you see, and they're in a hurry to spend all the money. And a quick follow-up on the comments we were having about China and Drudge claiming that all of the Chinese ships are backed up, and if you don't have shortages, you possibly might later, and things could go badly. By the way, the market's going to be up another 300 or 400 points today. Says the market's being driven by greed now. They're going to make money now. But Senator John Kennedy says the Chinese cannot be trusted. He believes a trade deal is on its way with Beijing. What do you think? Here he is.
I agree with everything you said. Trust in God, but tie up your camel. That's what's got to guide you when you deal with China.
Yes.
As you know, Larry, you've negotiated with them. We admitted China to the World Trade Organization December 11, 2001. China started cheating December 12. But if we do reach a trade deal with them, we won't just trust them, we'll verify. And there is a way to verify what we're selling them and what they're selling us. But the Chinese tariffs and their trade barriers, they're just much more oppressive than ours are, which is why President Trump elevated ours. He's got their attention, but there's a way home in this disagreement that will benefit both sides, but President Xi is going to have to make a move.
Well, I hope President Trump keeps most of the tariff.
John Kennedy, my favorite of the United States Senate. There he is. If you want to save some money and you're worried about the imports, how about MyPillow.com, promo code Gruber? You can always do that. Pillows on sale for $20. The queen size, normally $69.98, are now $19.98. King size pillows, $24.98. Look, you can get all sorts of things at MyPillow. You can get sheets and towels, pillows, slippers, robes, necklaces. I mean, there's just so much going on. And Rev 7 energy drinks. Rev 7. It's all at MyPillow.com. Promo code Gruber. Don't be shy. Save piles of money today. There, for those of you streaming, there it is. Hey, Mike Lindell, my buddy. I don't say MyPillow very often, but if ever you want to go there, the promo code Gruber will always work. I'll be back. Look at them all. Anyhow, here we are debating mushroom photography. My next guest was apparently out stealing my mushrooms. Blatant mushroom theft reported somewhere near Portland, Michigan. Ron Rademacher, the lead suspect. Hello, Ron.
I think it's called morel poaching.
Yeah, morel poaching. So
legal term.
You know, a good friend of mine,
my attorney.
A number of years ago, shot the biggest deer I'd ever seen. And I had seen it right across the street from where he killed it a few times, and then he killed it across the street on a friend's property, and I said, what are you doing? Oh, just because you go buy a tag and you hunt legally, you think that big deer walks by, you can just take him? He said, yep. I said, well, that's probably true anyhow.
Yeah.
So the mushroom hunting looks pretty good right at this moment across Michigan, all the way north into the great mushroom hinterlands of northern Michigan as well, right?
Yeah, it's they're blooming all over. I'm getting lots of reports, and it's perfect. Mother's Day is coming up, and health is important, morels are important, so take mom out for a stroll in the forest.
There you go.
Take her down to the Trillium Ravine. That's in full bloom right now. Trilliums by the tens of thousands, and you'll find some morels in there. Any forest will do. So they're sprouting out of the ground. I've got links to the Trillium Ravine at Michigan News Source. So go to Michigan News Source, look at Road Trip of the Week. You'll find a couple of great forests, Otto nature area over on Lake Michigan. I can tell you for a fact there are morels there. So great way to spend Mother's Day.
Well, I've got 3 spots, 4 maybe, within about 10 minutes of my house here. I guess we'll have to go out. I mean, it's rained considerably over the last couple of days.
Yeah.
The weather's been cool. Today is supposed to be warm, up into the mid-70s. So today, tomorrow, on through Mother's Day weekend should be blossoming morels. So good luck to the morel hunters out there. If you feel overwhelmed, just send me a distress signal. I'll come pick them up.
He'll come and help you. And there is also other professional help besides Steve. Misik is having their Morel Mushroom Festival this weekend.
Funny
so you can get up there if you need some help.
Yeah.
And, I know that if people don't know exactly for sure if they are morels, if they call you, send you the GPS coordinates, you'll go out there and verify whether or not they are safe or whether it's a false flag.
Right. I'll be there to confirm or deny. Safety first, people.
Yeah,
Safety first. Call me. That's right.
Hey, listen, we were talking about Mother's Day going for a walk. If you go down to the Trillium Ravine, you're only going to be there for an hour or so.
Yeah.
Right nearby is Wharton Woods, the forest primeval, outside of Three Oaks. And May 10th is the sewer ship. Everybody goes in and cleans up. Very beautiful place. This is an old growth forest, way in southern Michigan. I mean, it's never been cut.
I got to look at
Three Oaks so you can go down there and volunteer. And you can probably find some morels down there as well along the Galen River.
No kidding. All right, I'm going to find Three Oaks, Michigan here. And so it's on my map, and now it's on my things to do map. There it is. Everybody, Three Oaks.
Yep, and Warren Woods, the Warren Woods was also featured as a road trip of the week on Michigan News Source. So once again, you can go to Michigan Back Roads, go to Michigan News Source. You got directions, tells you everything you're going to need to know to have a good and safe time in the forest.
Yeah, I mean, Three Oaks. You're in suburban Indiana there in Three Oaks.
Yeah. You could throw a brick and hit Indiana from there. A couple of nature alerts we need to know. People going to the UP want to go out and see Munising Falls. The trail is closed. There was flooding with all this rain we've had. I think something like 75 feet of that trail is closed, so you can't go out there. It's dangerous. There's some other good falls around. And if you're in the Marquette area, please stay out of Presque Park. The blue salamander migration is going full force, and the Peter White Drive is closed through May 15th. So please don't drive over the blue salamanders.
All right, I got to see what this looks like. Blue spotted salamander? Yeah, that's it right there.
Yep, that's
so I had those in my basement. For
they
real,
were
I had
trying
a
to
house-
migrate across the road and got lost.
No, I had a house years ago now that had, the damp Michigan basement, right? Damp or whatever. And I went down there for something, and I saw these creatures. I'm like, I'd never seen such a thing before. They're about, they're about yay big, 4 or 5 inches maybe.
Yeah.
Anyhow. I wouldn't recommend having a house that's damp enough to have salamanders. That was in a younger day when I could take such things. I wouldn't put up with that now.
Yeah, they were down there trying to find the mud puppies that also live down there.
But they are a beautiful darn thing, those blue-spotted salamanders, so don't drive on them.
They
Good
are.
idea.
They are.
Least concern.
Finishing up in the UP, Drummond Island is having their Jeep Mud Bog and tailgate party this weekend. Jeeps are, the ferry is, if you go to the webcam, ferry is full. They're dragging Jeeps over there from all over the Upper Peninsula, all over Canada, and they go out and they get muddy, and they have music, and they have adult beverages, and a lot of mud bogs to drive your Jeep through.
But do not operate the Jeep while having adult beverages. Please operate within the limitations of the posted law and speed limit. There. Disclaimer.
Yes. Well, I'm not sure there's a speed limit in the mud bog, but yeah, you have to mud jam responsibly if you're going to Drummond Island. There's another big festival going on for people who strangely don't like nature and don't like mushrooms. I mean, there's 1 or 2 out there.
Weird.
Holland, it's Tulip Time.
Oh, yeah.
Tulip Time Festival is going on in Holland. And one of them that I wanted to go to, but I've got another obligation. I'm going to miss it. Down in Marshall, they're having the military vehicle show, Steve. They're going to have Bradley fighting vehicles, and they're going to have tanks.
Yeah.
And they're going to have all kinds of Humvees down and at Turkeyville, and you can climb them. I'm not sure if you can drive them.
But you can
get out there and play with these military vehicles.
Fair enough. I need one of those to go find the mushrooms, a military vehicle going through the mud bog, tiptoe through the tulips and everything else. MichiganBackroads.com, MichiganBackroads.com. With this man, Ron Rademacher, he's got a lot of great books for you to read there about getaways in Michigan. Check that out. And, of course, you can see him and Bob the Turtle and everything else from time to time. MichiganBackroads.com. Thank you so much, Ron Rademacher.
Thanks for having me, Steve. Good luck with those mushrooms this evening. Have fun.
Confessions.
All right. Just looking at things. I'm just checking on things. Gas prices are down again. I had some guy send me a note here about how gas prices are $3.49 in Michigan or something. I don't know where those gas prices are. Giving me a hard time. Dude, look, I go to AAA every day. It's down again today. The national average $3.15. The average in Michigan $3.14, which means if that's the average, you can find gas under $3 in a number of places in Michigan. Gas is down 3 cents, 4 cents from a week ago. It's down a dime from a month ago. It's down more than 50 cents from a year ago. So look, gas is good. Oil prices also remain low. $59 a barrel. What does that mean? It means that gas prices will continue to come down and that our energy prices are in pretty gosh darn good shape. Or as Congressman from Tennessee would say, dadgum. Dadgummit. I'm not sure what that means, but it's Tennessee speak. Let's see. Still to come today on the program. Now I'm all turned around. Still to come on the program, Kevin Hearn will be there. He's the chairman of the Republican Policy Committee, and Congressman from Oklahoma 1, Kevin Hern, joining me. We'd like to get as many members of Congress on this program as possible. We're going to talk about that one big, beautiful bill. We'll talk about the border, economic freedom, reining in federal spending, strengthening the American workforce. So much more to talk about with Kevin Hern. It's coming up here in just a few minutes as part of the program brought to you by Wolverine Water. Wolverine Water System, 75 years here, making Michigan the best water there is. American-made products delivered by your friends and neighbors, statewide here in Michigan. WolverineWaterSystems.com, plus my good friend Paul Mahaney is running that place. He's not been doing it for 75 years, but they've been around for a long time. Michigan-made, Michigan people, your friends and neighbors, best water you're ever going to have, plus the reverse osmosis drinking water system. Oh, you're going to love it. You are going to love it. WolverineWaterSystems.com. I'll take a break and be right back with Congressman Kevin Hern. Well, here we go back into the conversation. Now, one big, beautiful bill. That's what Donald Trump says he wants. And look, we have to have it. If you don't codify all the things that he's done in the first few weeks of his second term, it's all for naught. all of these executive orders, what is it, about 140? I lose count, but somewhere in that neighborhood. If you don't pass legislation to turn this into law, then it's only as good as the length of his term, and that's not good enough for me. Joining me now, Congressman Kevin Hern. He's the chairman of the Republican Policy Committee and congressman from Oklahoma, Oklahoma 1. Congressman, thank you for being here today.
Great to be with you.
All right, so first we thought it was going to be Memorial Day. Now it's looking more like he might sign legislation on the 4th of July, but we're still on track to sign legislation, and that's, I mean, like I said, if we don't get this done, we being the Republicans in Congress, it was all for nothing. It's important, isn't it?
You're exactly right. The president knows he's only got about 3.5 years left, and he's got to get this policy done. He's got a very clear vision of what his mission is. He wants to return, the sovereignty, make sure it's protected in his country for all future generations. What he started doing with the border, he jokingly said at the southern border, the Democrats wanted new laws, and all they really needed was a new president. And he's demonstrated that the laws in place just needed to be executed. When you see what he's doing right now, trying to restore our economic prowess around the world with his tariffs and bringing people to the table to renegotiate deals that have been, just allowed to slip away over the decades, it's really problematic. And he understands the adversarial position we have with China, somebody that, a country like we've never seen before in our history of our country.
I heard Senator John Kennedy of Louisiana yesterday say he thinks, and I believe this to be true, I'll get you to weigh in on this, that China can't hold out. Look, right now I'm looking at it manifests that say shipping of Chinese products into America down 30%, 40% in some places. They can't survive without shipping to America. Factories are closing in China. People are unemployed. The natives are restless, as they say. China is going to have to come to terms with the fact that America's bigger and stronger economically, and they're going to have to play ball, aren't they?
Well, they are. I mean, if you think about some of the things that they manufacture that could be manufactured elsewhere, we jokingly say, you won't be able to get your political buttons anymore because they're all made in China, or your tennis shoes or your T-shirts. But they're moving quickly to other, developing nations, and even coming back to Central America, which really strengthens our Western Hemisphere, our economic relationships. But to your point, China manufactures. The only way they can survive is they have to sell. We're, meaning the United States of America, the largest consumer of Chinese products. If we stop buying, they can't manufacture, and then they have a real problem economically. Today, China and the president are meeting together, his team. We know right now that their growth is slowing very quickly, that manufacturing facilities in China have stopped producing. And, we're seeing the real impact on China, much more so than we are on the United States of America.
Congressman, just a couple of weeks ago, if I listened to the Democrats or the mainstream corporate media, they were telling me April's going to be the worst month ever, and since 1932, and the markets are in free fall. It was all doom and gloom. It was panic porn, frankly. The markets today are going to open up a couple of hundred points. The Dow's back up over 41,000. The total losses, most of that has been recaptured. Not quite back to where we were, but look, the fear over tariffs and all that fear-mongering has gone nowhere. It looks like the economy is in pretty good shape. Inflation's 2.4%. Unemployment's 4.2%. The jobs report of last week, 177,000, better than expected. The fundamentals are there. So if we get a deal with China and the EU and Canada and Mexico, the tariffs come down, we get a reduction in interest rates, this economy, by the end of this year, could be going great guns, couldn't it?
It could, and certainly, again, I think the president's main desire here is to make sure we sort of reorder and put back in place what's unraveled very quickly in just 20 plus years with China being in the World Trade Organization, when we voted to let them in thinking they would be a good democracy to come into the world, the global economy, and they've been nothing but destructive and disruptive. And so it's our turn to reset the place of where we're at as an economic superpower. Again, putting tariffs on certain nations in Asia so that we can force certain products to be made back in Central America, restore our relationships with Central America economically and South America, of which, by the way, that China is the most favored trading partner in all of South America now. And so we've got a real problem in our own Western Hemisphere where, what we know and the president knows is that We have to restore our alignment of how we're going to look at great power competition around the globe that we haven't seen, since we were much younger. And again, China has a GDP like ours, very close. And then third place is, a tie with Germany and Japan, which is some $16 trillion less. So right now, China is the play.
Discussing about voting to let them in, I have a bit of a question for you here. A lot of people gave Donald Trump a lot of grief for commenting that Canada should be the 51st state. Of course, we saw the Prime Minister, Mark Carney, in the Oval Office yesterday saying a lot of nice things to Donald Trump, a lot different than what he said on the campaign trail. A lot of people criticized Trump for the Liberals winning in Canada again, but I submit this for consideration. Maybe that was the plan, because Alberta has now announced there will be a vote to separate from Canada in 2026. Alberta becomes a free player, a free agent, if you will. We'd like to do business with Alberta, wouldn't we? Is that what the plan was the entire time from Donald Trump? Was there a method to his madness, sir?
Well, as I've shared with people, concerned about the Canadian conversations, Greenland and Panama, President Trump, again, wants to make sure that we keep pushing back on China and their economic movements that they're doing in North America, in Central America, in South America. Greenland is a place where China just recently was booted out by Greenland because they knew that we caught them allowing China to come in and drill for rare earths and minerals, and they kicked them out. Canada is so dependent on exporting. If not for us moving a lot of our automobile production, parts production to Canada, what would they really have other than dairy cows and trees? And so all of this matters a lot. And as the president has said, Secretary Besson has said, Commerce Secretary Lutnick has said, until Mexico and Canada start complying with the USMCA agreement and stop allowing this egregious action of China and other Asian countries to come in duty-free, we're going to continue to keep the tariffs on.
Yeah, he said that's just the way it is. He made that comment yesterday in the Oval Office. But I come back, would we entertain the idea of Alberta coming into the United States if they vote to secede? That's a real question.
Sure. Oh, you bet. I mean, again, I'm well aware of that vote, and I think they're sending a message to the rest of the liberal Canada that we're tired of this. We don't want to live in fear. We need the protection of the United States of America. We want the economic prosperity of America, and we're going to do what we need to do as a body. And so I think it's going to send a really big, strong message that people value their freedoms. They want economic growth, and they're not seeing that in Canada.
And the whole net zero idea from Mark Carney is a fool's errand, is what they're saying, from Alberta all the way to Ottawa. Congressman, greatly appreciate you being here. I do. Kevin Hearn from Oklahoma, everybody. Thank you for your time, sir.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
There you have it. Oklahoma 1, which is Tulsa, by the way. Beautiful city. I told him that beforehand. I've been to Tulsa. It's a great town. It really is. Dates all the way back to J. Paul Getty and all that Getty oil money. Energy money. Sound familiar? Right. Oklahoma 1. Kevin Hearn, good man. We'll take a break and be right back. Now, I don't know if Ivy actually saw the picture sent to me by Ron Rademacher this morning of this table full of morel mushrooms. But I went, really, Ron? Anyhow, he was near Portland, Michigan, in a otherwise unspecified spot. And if I went there, I'd probably be stabbed with a fork. Ivy's with me today, of course. Ivy, good morning.
Good morning, Steve. I think if you entered anyone's morel territory, you could very well be shot.
Yeah, shot, stabbed, whatever, yeah. Liquidated. Anyhow, man, you look very summery today.
Well, thank you. It is springtime, so nothing like bringing out the bright colors.
There you go. So anyhow, we're going to go. I think we're going to get it in today, finally. We keep getting stalled by, all of this rain.
Well, that's good for the morels. Hello.
It is.
It's great for mushrooms.
Baseball, good for mushrooms, right?
Right.
So anyhow.
Not great for baseball or softball.
Correct.
But
that's right.
Good for mushrooms.
All our games got rained out yesterday, but we'll see. We're going south. We can't tell you, to an undisclosed location, and yes, we defend it vigorously.
Listen, all morel mushroom locations are undisclosed until you're
Exactly
on your
true.
deathbed, and then you'll hand them off to someone that you want to. Like,
will I?
Could it?
What if I live through the
possibly-
day? What if I actually live through the day and I don't actually,
And if you talk to anyone who has really great mushroom spots, so they'll agree with exactly what we're saying.
Yeah, we
You're
met
never
a guy.
gonna know.
We met a guy
until I'm almost dead.
in Boyne City who didn't disclose any of his mushroom spots to his kids until his oldest kid was 45 years old. He finally
Yeah.
told him about one. And not his best spot. He told him about one spot, didn't he?
So he probably went around and told like one spot to another family member and one spot to another family member. So
Anyhow.
and then he was probably made them swear to never tell each other so that they don't know.
Right. Swear on your deathbed, son. Anyhow, people are funny. Same's true with great fishing spots and great hunting spots. Morels, mushroom people are just funny about it.
Come on, share the love.
No.
We actually did it a couple of years ago. We were walking around, and I ran into what does that tree have, like 35?
49.
49 morels.
Her own personal record, she doesn't remember.
I
It was
literally
49.
was like yelled out at you. Oh my gosh!
Yeah, and we've been to
Jumping
that
up and
tree.
down.
We've been to that tree the last 2 years since.
No
Nothing.
mushrooms.
Well, the tree, it was on its final throes as a tree when it produced all those mushrooms. It's basically fallen down and not really there anymore. So it's
Right.
the source is gone. Sad.
Yeah, I mean,
I think I just had a tear in my eye.
I think we found a couple around there in the past, but nothing like that day. No.
No, nothing.
Sometimes you just hit it right, and they just flourish for
It's
whatever
kind of the way
reason.
life is. Sometimes you just hit it right.
That's
Sometimes you have an epic day, and we like having epic days when we're fishing, when we're out morel hunting. You just have epic days, and right now is a good chance to have some of those. I look at the Tulip Festival. If you like flowers, man, the water's
we've never
been
been
right.
over there. That'd be kind of cool to do.
I've only ever been there once for the Tulip Festival.
Yeah, I've never been there.
It's great. It really is. And of course, the Frederick Meyer Gardens there, spectacular.
We took the kids there a couple
We
years
have, a
ago.
couple
That
times.
it was pretty nice.
I love that.
It was during the fall though, so a lot of the outdoor things were closed.
Yeah,
But
it was
very
great,
beautiful
though.
location.
Cool
So I want to bring to your attention. I don't think you've heard anything about this, and nor had I, which was a bit alarming. I don't understand Meta and especially Instagram because I don't know if you have an Instagram account out there, whoever's watching and listening, but for our Instagram accounts, we get constantly inundated with pornography, like all the time.
I wouldn't know that. I guess I don't look at the account, or
You
then
don't.
I would know.
You don't, because then I go in and delete and block and report every day. And
Every day?
Every day
Really?
you receive pornographic group chats from who knows what, and there's they associate you with a bunch of other people that you may know
Or don't know.
And I just don't understand why
Really?
Zuckerberg and his team cannot get this under control.
Yeah,
And if
I
this
don't have that-
is how it is for you as an adult, how is it for children?
Good point you make. Well, here's the point that I was going to make.
It is like full on XXX pornography.
Really?
Because I clicked into it one time, I was like, oh my gosh, you've got to be kidding me.
Really?
Yeah.
Which is weird because I am active on X, Twitter if you prefer. I'm active on Facebook a lot. You know that. I'm on those platforms. I check them out and post stuff pretty regularly.
Right.
I don't get any of that. None of that. So
No,
if
it goes into your
Instagram
private-
and Facebook are the same owners.
They are, and it goes into your inbox, into your business inbox, and it's outrageous. I don't understand how they can't get this under control because I have literally sent probably 10,000 reports in, and they continue to come. It's like, get this under control. And so what really concerns me is what children then are can they receive those sorts of messages?
Well, I would
and
think
what are they
so.
receiving?
Or what if somebody
And
jumps?
so-
If you're a parent, you walk out of the room, your kid jumps on your Instagram account or my account, whatever.
Right.
Boom, there it is. Really?
Right.
That's so weird. I had no idea.
It's awful, awful. And other accounts, I bet, would completely agree with us and have the same
Concern.
Concern
Yeah.
and experience. So the FBI has opened 250 investigations tied to this violent online network called 764.
What is that?
And it preys on teenagers. The youngest victim so far is 6 years old. So what this group does is they'll go into like your TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, X, Snapchat, Discord. They use these platforms to target young people, young men, young women, young children, and then they begin to manipulate them and have them do violent acts. So, for instance, one gal had started carving 764 into herself.
So they goad them into doing these violent things.
Yes, yes. So
Wow.
let me tell you about one of the perpetrators. So last year in classic New England town of Vernon, Connecticut, local police arrested a young girl who was conspiring with a 764 devotee overseas to direct bombing threats at her own community.
Really?
When the police searched her devices, they found pornographic pictures of her, photos depicting self-mutilation and paying homage to this 764 organization.
Wow.
And some of the goals of the 764 organization are to sow chaos and
What
to
we've learned here today.
bring down society. Another federal case, 19-year-old Jack Rocker of Tampa amassed a collection of more than 8,300 videos and images
All right.
of young people. I mean, it's horrific.
It's horrific.
Evil,
So what I've learned
horrific,
here today.
evil content. And they teach young people how to do this. So keep an eye out, parents out there. Make sure you're having conversations with your kids. Make sure you're paying attention to what they're saying online.
Leave it right there. Ivy, thank you. Good stuff. Love you. All right, so I'm trying to find this, Ivy. Ivy's back with me here. But I saw something about a TikTok challenge where these 3 kids ran up to a guy's porch in Maryland doing some deal where they're supposed to pound on the door and, scare the crowd. Kid got shot and killed.
Oh, my gosh.
So here we got pornography. I just saw the story earlier. I'll have it for you guys tomorrow. Pornography on Instagram, apparently in the inbox all the time, which I had nothing. I don't look at. I didn't know. 764, creating all these, and these TikToks. Look, folks, pay attention to social media with your kids and grandkids. I think that's the takeaway. That's why I had you stick around for a minute more.
Well, absolutely. I'm sure many of you who are listening and watching know this popular online gaming platform called Roblox. So you can chat in Roblox, and these perpetrators with this organization go in, they start talking to these children, and then they teach them like, hey, I can teach you how to lock out somebody else from Roblox, go into their Roblox account, lock them out, and then demand money or demand things from them. And then when things turn violent, they threaten their family, or themselves. Hey, I'm going to come and kill you and your family if you don't do X, Y, Z. And this is a very a common place, sadly, on these online platforms. So they begin with this, say, Roblox, and there are other things, but then they go and then they communicate on something like Discord, which is an online popular for gaming, a chat area for gamers.
Right.
And so it's just very, very, very important that you are very in tune with what's happening on these social media platforms, especially something like Snapchat too. Snapchat's very easy to hide things from parents. So always
it's
be
up and gone,
aware of what's going on. We are pretty strict with our kid, but you know what? He has Roblox, so it just makes me think that we need to, as parents, have another conversation. Like, be very aware of what's going on. There's a lot of people who want to do bad things out there, so
that's right.
Make sure you're protecting yourself and your family.
Thanks, Ivy. I greatly appreciate that. By the way, the story's out of Virginia. We'll have it for you tomorrow. High school athlete, three-sport athlete, shot and killed for pounding on the door to scare the heck out of this guy at 3 in the morning. Yeah. Fight the good fight. Keep the faith. God bless America, my friends. I'm Steve Gruber. That's Ivy, of course. This is the Steve Gruber Show. And remember, only you can save America.